It's Wednesday, April 23rd. I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we, I guess theoretically, primarily talk about Maris the Chojo. Let's do this.
Yeah, we totally blew off last night's show.
Well, you know how, the stuff that, at work, there are some things, you're just working on them. And there are some other things where it's like, okay, you're just working on them, but there's a deadline. And there's some other things you could work on it or not. And then occasionally, something will happen, and you have to work on it right now.
Man.
Those things never happen unless you're about to leave. They never happen as soon as you walk in the morning.
For 3 days in a row, I'll say this. I've barely escaped, but every day I leave work pretty much at 4 to catch the 4:10 train. It's so perfect. But every day for the last 3 days, I'll be sitting there, and it's like, all right, it's 3:58, putting my laptop away, getting ready to say, all right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. 3:59, someone walks over. Hey, Rim, can you look at this real quick? This doesn't look right. Oh, no! Type. Does it look good? Look good? Fine. I'm about bye. Run out the door.
Yeah. There needs to be sort of like a time, like if you come to me after 3:30. No, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be the end of the company. I'm not. Forget about it. Someone
You know what's
else.
scary? I'll say this.
There needs to be like a handoff period.
I actually like my company enough to where I would probably, if it was an emergency, stick around.
Well, my policy at my work is if it's something that is the cause of me, I will stay there and fix it if it's really important and we're losing money or whatever.
I'll also stay if I can fix it without, like, if I wouldn't be able to do any better than anyone else at fixing it, then I probably wouldn't stay. But if it's something I could do, or I know, or I don't think anyone else could do it quickly, I would just do it.
Yeah. Hey, it really depends on the thing, but I make a judgment call. If I feel responsible for it, I'll stay and do it.
Yeah,
and if I don't, then I'll be like, all right, you take care of it, bye.
Yeah, at least with my work, we have this overlap. Like, I work 7 to 4, and this other guy works like 9:30 to 6:30. So we kind of overlap there. So if there's a big problem, he can usually cover it at the end of the day. And kind of the payback for that is that I got to be there in the morning when other things go wrong.
See, we don't have things go wrong in the morning.
It's more that I got to show up every morning at the crack ass of dawn and make sure everything's going to be okay. I turn on the lights. I pick up the mail. I do all that stuff, too. It's fun.
Yeah, my computer's give it here tomorrow.
Nah, yeah.
Well, actually, most of it's here now, except for the case, the CPU, and the hard drives. Sort of important parts.
But actually, the reason we didn't do a show last night was, Scott had one of those, all right, look at this, fix it things. But he text messaged me while I'm on the train. It's like, I'm going to be late. But he didn't say how late. So I had a choice to make. All right, do I query him to find out how late he will be and make plans accordingly to do the show? Or do I assume he's not coming home, totally go out to dinner with Emily, and then hang out?
Yeah.
So Scott finally did get home. And
you knew that if I'm late, it's going to be at least one train, which is already enough time to eat dinner and still do a show.
Yeah, but if it was that, you probably wouldn't have even told me.
Yeah.
Oh, I was looking for an excuse to not do the show, because it's been...
You're always, every day you're looking for an excuse not to do the show.
Not today.
That's only because you feel bad about not doing the show yesterday.
Not really.
If you had a choice of being here and doing the show, right, or going outside and going, would you sit here and do the show, or would you go outside and go,
See, the thing is, I do have a choice.
You do.
And I'm here.
No, but you feel obligated, despite it, they're not actually being a real obligation.
Not part of it is
you have curated for yourself a duty.
I think you forget that I get home like an hour before you, so I got home, and then I went for this crazy long run, and then I did all this other stuff outside. So I'm kind of sated right now.
Even still.
Plus, I got the window open right there, despite all the noise going on out there.
Anyway. What else we got going on?
I don't know. But normally we talk about anime news or comic news, but is there any anime news or comic news that we care about?
Well, there was this huge New York comic convention, all right? Whole weekend. And there's a lot of news from it. But really, I don't think any of it is news-worthy. It's mostly, we licensed this, we announced that, and it's all just kind of blah. There's nothing like, oh man, something to discuss or something awesome. It's mostly just...
What could possibly... It'd have to be something crazy like, oh, by the way, they're making another Ghost in the Shell movie. Or like, oh, by the way, I don't know, something crazy.
I mean, they could announce things that are actual news, something interesting.
Well, like, what's your line, though? I mean, there was interesting news. It's just it's not news that, while it may be interesting, there's not much for us to comment on because we're not.
That it's not interesting if there's nothing for us to comment on.
Yeah, there is, because it's partly that we're not the first line of news. If you want to just find out what happened, like just the objective facts, just go read the Anime News Network. They'll tell you everything they got licensed.
At least
everything.
anime-wise.
Yeah, and comic-wise, you can find all that news. So we're not going to just like say news that happens unless we have something personal to say about
and
it.
none of the news that happened, it was all just announcements of new things and boring shit like that. So there's nothing to discuss except for what happened.
Yeah, well, like I'm saying, that news wasn't
Hence,
interesting.
it's not interesting news.
Well, not to us personally. A lot of those shows people really cared about.
I say if there's nothing to discuss.
All right, can you name one piece of these newses? Because I think you're just saying.
There's that Stanley manga
Ultimo?
thingy. Yeah.
Yeah? That wasn't announced at the Comic-Con. That was
It was-
announced a long time ago.
No, but it's like, they show off stuff.
But there was no news about it. It was just, hey, just in case you forgot, that thing's still coming.
Well, they gave,
Had they announced it at the New York Comic-Con.
It was effectively like they had said, they basically said Stanley Ultimo, and then at the convention, like, okay, here it is, here's the pictures, here's all the more information,
But a lot of that information was already available.
Well, not really. And then, it's like there were new trailers for TV shows and movies, and there's all sorts of news about new comics coming out from all the comic companies. We're making this, we're making that, we're making more graphic novels, we're making more Spider-Mans, all that kind of bullshit.
But had they actually announced the Ultimo thing, I would have had something to say, and I still have something to say because we never covered it. I'll say this about Ultimo. They're not selling or marketing or promoting Ultimo in any way. They are promoting, marketing, and selling Stan Lee's Ultimo. You look at this poster they had up, and it was like Stan Lee in the biggest letters they could fit, and a big picture of his face, and then much smaller than that, Ultimo coming soon, and then a picture of something from Ultimo. Obviously, this is going to be some generic comic that is being sold primarily on the name Stan Lee.
Yeah, pretty much. I predict not so good. What do you predict?
I think it's going to be average. I don't think it'll be bad. I don't think it'll be good. I think it'll be just an average comic.
Well, I'm not buying it. That's for sure.
We got to review it.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do.
Well, then you can go buy it.
I'll acquire it somehow.
We'll go to the comic book store next to the train station and buy it.
No, someone will send it to me, I'm sure.
I'm sure, because Stan Lee's going to send it to you.
Not Stan Lee, but someone else will.
All right, we'll see about that.
I mean, I've gotten so many crappy comics in the mail. I figured someday someone other than Vertical is going to send us something good.
Oh, well, I'm not buying it.
Yeah,
So-
actually, it's scary. I mean, instead of doing news, we can talk a little bit about the New York Comic Con. Unlike other conventions, we're not going to dedicate an entire show to the New York Comic Con because there's not nearly as much to say about it as I would have to say after going to say Otakon or Katsucon.
Yep. But basically, New York Comic Con, better than it's the third year, I think. Yes, the third year of this con, and it was superior to the previous years. Unlike the first year, you could get in. Unlike the second year, there was more than one entrance, and there were wider aisles. So it's actually, the con is pretty much just one big room, and it's got, dealing in one corner. It's got exhibitors in most of the space. It's got a big-ass artist alley in the other corner, and then there's a little stage with a bunch of chairs where they sort of do random shit that's just fucked up.
I have things to say about that.
Right? And then behind the stage, hidden in the corner, is like a little podcast area. And it's just this giant, it's like, I say 2/3 of the main Javits room, right? And the aisles were even on, we didn't go Saturday, but even on crowded Friday, you could sort of, at least as long as you weren't in the artist alley, there was room to walk around. Sunday was nice and light, just kind of and just like the year before, you go there, you walk around the big room, you see what there is to see, and there's no reason to hang around because most of the panels are pretty boring, except there was one panel that was Doug Rushkoff and Scott McCloud, but it was really early on Friday when I was not able to go at like 1 o'clock p.m.
There was also ICV2, which if I'd taken the day off work, which I kind of wanted to because he had cocktails and stuff, and it looks like it's a pretty fun thing for a press person, but I wasn't going to take Thursday off of work for that.
No, it wasn't.
But pretty much, I do want to point out one thing. We had several listeners point out that this was like their first convention, and they seem to have a good time. But I do want to say that the New York Comic Con is very typical of any sort of comic convention, but pretty much almost not in any way similar to an average anime
Well,
convention.
see, I'm actually starting to realize, right? It doesn't have much to do with the subject matter of the convention. It has to do with whether it's fan run or for profit.
Yeah,
you know?
well, it's just
Like there are for-profit anime cons besides the New York Anime Festival, and they're mostly just like a big, boring dealer's room.
but not really to the extent of this, because it seems like comic conventions in general, commercial or I don't know how many fan-run ones there are. I'm sure there's some, but they're so focused on the buying and the selling and that sort of thing that, like, the biggest complaint.
That is true that fan-run comic conventions are more focused on the are more like, for-profit other conventions.
But the biggest complaint, the only like main complaint I had about the New York Comic Con was that I was everywhere I walked, unlike any other conventions I go to. And I remember this happened at Philly Wizard World too. People kept ramming into me. Now, there's crowds at anime
There were
conventions.
bigger aisles this year, despite there being, they had a lot more stuff, but they had a lot more space, and the aisles were adequately wide.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that I was walking around this convention, and Otakon has gigantic crowds and crazy crowds, and you can't walk anywhere, and Katsucon's like that. But at all those anime conventions, I don't really get bumped into a lot. You just, everyone is kind of close together, but everyone's walking in nice orderly and da-da-da-da-da, and people are sitting in the sides. But at this convention and at Philly Wizard World and at the previous New York Comic Convention, I was rammed into by people, kind of hard, a lot, constantly. Anytime
No
I
one
was
rammed me that hard. If someone did ram me that hard, I'd probably push them over.
Well, no, but you're really missing the point. Not ram you to the point that they would knock you over, it would hurt, but running into me at a speed that was well above what is acceptable. And people were swinging bags into me and onto other people, and I saw other people the same thing. It's like everyone was kind of bumping into each other and bumping into tables and knocking stuff over. And
Well, you have a giant room, right? And despite wide enough aisles, you've got a shit ton of people in this room.
oh yeah, but what I'm trying to point
There are
out is
things
that
in every possible direction
what I'm
grabbing
trying
people's
to
attention.
point out is that this doesn't happen at the dealers' rooms at anime cons I go to that are just as crowded, if not more so.
Well, the dealer's room at an anime con isn't the whole con. It's one small part of the con. And it has smaller aisles, but it doesn't matter that it has smaller aisles because a smaller percentage of the con is in there at any one time.
But-
there's also a lot less, attention grabbing in different directions. It's straight
How
aisles.
can you say that at all? It was straight aisles here, too. And there's the same
Not really.
Yeah, they were straight aisles.
The layout of the room wasn't a perfect grid,
There were a couple of minor variations. It's pretty much exactly the same as an anime con dealer's room. Yeah.
Not really.
The only difference I think, because the dealer's room at Otakon is actually a lot more crowded than this place at any given moment. I think the difference is that anime cons, because they have these other places that aren't dealer's rooms, a lot of times at an anime con, you see people walking around who they've already looked at stuff and now they're just kind of chilling. And they're either looking for somewhere to sit down and chill, or they're kind of walking slowly off somewhere to chill in a nice quiet area and hang out. And they're not just doing anything in particular. But at Comic Cons, there really aren't places to chill so much.
The lobby.
The lobby is it, and that's pretty far away from everything else. You got to walk all the way out.
Well, they had the beanbag area.
The beanbag
And they
area,
had all the chairs by the stage.
yeah, those couple of areas on the far ends. But it seems like most people who were walking around weren't even looking at anything. They were just kind of walking slow, chilling. But because it's all just one big dealer's room, they were just kind of walking, chilling in the middle of where everyone else was walking, trying to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I don't understand why so many people bumped into me.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It was really, really apparent that people were bumping into me a lot more than any other public place I've ever been.
All right. Well, there was some bumping going on, but I guess I didn't notice it as much as you did.
It was just, well, you were ramming into me too.
Yeah. Well, to the convention's credit, actually, they did have a whole area that we were able to find, even though it was far away from everything else, that had a whole bunch of panels, 200 plus panels. The thing is except for a very small handful of the panels, I was completely not interested in any of them.
Well, that's just Scott. I was actually interested in quite a few of the panels.
Well, I think most of the panels, though, were just so-and-so company, so-and-so other company. You know, it wasn't, not a lot of it was like, ooh, something actually interesting.
Like what? What would be interesting?
Oh, like that one panel I couldn't get to at Friday at 1.
Okay, so what else would be interesting? You were real vague there. You're like,
People actually, discussing something as opposed to just,
and how do you know what,
advertising.
How do you? A lot of those panels didn't look like they were just advertised. I mean, a lot of them did.
I think the vast majority of them were just some company advertising their new thing.
Okay, well, that's your opinion.
That's go look at the list of panels. You'll see.
And there were a bunch I wanted to go. Actually, I was really interested in checking out that black panel, but Scott really didn't want to go, so we left.
I wasn't. What do I want to go to the black panel for?
I wanted to see what they had to say. There was a lot of people lined up. It looked interesting.
It didn't look too interesting to me.
Okay, well, nothing ever looks interesting to you.
But even so, okay, so that's 2 panels out of 200
Well, actually,
plus.
I really wanted to go to the Avatar panel, too. I just ended up...
That's a company selling something panel.
Well, it was something that I really want, and they were showing things that hadn't been seen before, and I failed to get an interview with those people, partly because everyone failed to get interviews with those people, because as far as I could tell, pretty much every single member of the press wanted an interview with anyone associated with Avatar. And as a result, no one really got interviews. In fact, the 2 creators, from what I hear, actually said, never mind, and just kind of flew out early.
Even so, right, that's 3 out of 200 plus. That's pretty sad.
Well, I'm saying of the time I was there were... I can think of a couple more. They were all told maybe 5 or 6 panels that I probably would have wanted to go to, which is...
Out of 200 is really sad.
Not necessarily.
I mean, at an anime convention. Well,
besides,
not every anime
interesting
convention.
to you or maybe to me, but there were panels where people, like, if you're into these comics, there are people who have a lot to do with these comics.
I guess that is true. Is that
really long Q&A sessions?
That is true.
I don't understand why you're so down on these panels.
Because every time I went down there to look at the panel schedules, there's absolutely nothing I wanted to go to.
Wait a minute. Every time you went down there once for like 5 minutes.
I went down there 3 times.
You went down there once for like 5 minutes with me. You walked past every panel. You walked in. You're like, well, that sucks. Let's leave.
But I didn't. It wasn't just the panel that was currently in there that sucked. I looked at the entire schedule for the day, and I said, nothing in this room at all. Nothing in this room at all.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I actually wanted to stay for some, but Scott was getting impatient.
What did you want to stay for?
The black panel, among other things. And some of the ones I was walking by, there were pretty big crowds, and they were doing Q&A. Someone might ask an interesting question.
Yeah, right. Like at what, the DC panel?
The DC panel that you refused to stay at for more than 2 minutes, so we only got to hear one question?
It was just, I heard like 3 questions that are all fanboys.
Yeah.
They're all fanboys asking stupid shit about like, oh, why didn't Superman do this? Why didn't Green Lantern do that? Blah, blah, blah.
They didn't, there wasn't a single question like that.
Yeah, there were.
Actually, no, the only question we saw was someone asked one question about like when a comic's coming out, and then the next question was the moderator actually asking the audience if any of them had like stopped reading comics and then something got them to read comics again. And they were all telling like, well, I stopped reading when blah like did this year, or like when these superheroes got all weird, or I didn't understand them anymore, and I never started reading again, or I started reading again because they reset this, or I just randomly picked up a comic, and actually it was kind of interesting, but Scott was like, let's go.
It wasn't interesting because they were all talking about DC Universe BS, not comics as a whole BS.
So it's not interesting to you.
Yeah.
What if you like DC?
No, I don't like any of that shit.
I like how you want to be so, before the con, you're like, man, we got to be so objective with press. We got to be like, we got to cover things and be objective and serious business. And all you did was walk around the con loudly proclaiming that everything sucked.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard. I realized I sort of had to have a press hat and a fan hat, and I got to switch the hats.
But you never put on a press hat, even when you were trying to film stuff. Like, there's these Star Wars people that were, like, fighting on stage. Scott was loudly saying, within, like, pretty much everyone in earshot would hear him going, wow, this is lame. Wow, these guys suck. Wow, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
Everyone was kind of, like, turning around and looking at him, like, seriously, what's your problem?
Yeah, it was pretty lame, though, you got to admit.
While it was pretty lame, I thought you wanted to be objective press.
I was wearing my fan hat at the time.
I don't think you own a press hat.
I gotta get one.
I don't think you own one.
It's very easy. It's one thing to know what to do. It's much harder to actually do what you know what to do. I mean, like, technically, I academically can get a book that says, aha, this is how to draw a beautiful picture. And it's another thing to actually draw a beautiful picture.
But in regards to the Star Wars thing, while I don't quite have the venom that I guess Scott had for these
I don't
people,
have venom. I just think it's really lame, and it's kind of sad watching these people sort of act like they're legitimate and cool and worthy of respect.
You
when
mean like
when they're just a bunch of like really sad adults acting like little children.
Well, they were like teenagers, all of them.
No, that guy was like 20 something for sure.
No, he definitely wasn't.
No, definitely
And most of the
was.
people on stage were clearly in high school.
Nah, that's how it looked like to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Why don't we go find out exactly how old those people were? They were definitely, most of them in their 20s. If not 30s, some of them.
I disagree with you pretty much 100%, so.
Yeah.
You've got your film. Go pull the film out and put it on YouTube or something.
It's a really bad film because I suck at the camera
Great.
action. Yeah. I have the same problem with the video camera that I have with the photo camera in that, I carry it and I want to video things, but I don't.
And well, I kept telling you to, and you kept putting the camera away. I'd
Yeah,
be like,
it's like
Scott,
I have
film
the-
this. Oh, I put the camera away. By the time he fumbles it out, the thing's over. And then he immediately puts the camera back away.
Yeah, it's like because carrying it, first of all, is very annoying.
I had the Marantz and the microphone and all that business.
That's easier to carry.
Not really.
Because you don't. Yeah, it is.
It's actually heavier than that camera.
It's not about the weight.
The microphone itself is heavier than the camera. I had that big XLR cable. The thing was jangling around, hit me in the thigh. I had to keep fiddling with the radio, and I was
The point is that if I'm using the camera, I have to have my hand in front of my face, and I can't do anything else. I can't talk or look around or anything.
Okay.
You can interview someone and look around and walk.
Not really. I pretty much have to stare constantly at the meters and keep adjusting the levels.
Nah, it's not necessary.
Actually, it's very necessary. I've gotten a lot better at that. That's why the short interview clip I have with the International Office of French Publishers, I think, publications. I forget exactly. Sounds really good, but all the interviews I did at every con before sounds awful.
Anyway, this isn't helping people. But basically, if you like comics at all, right? And you're near New York. If you're far away, but if you're near enough to New York, it's probably worth your time to go to the New York Comic Con one of the days. I suggest either Friday night or Sunday. Saturday's probably not worth it. And just go around, look at all the stuff, and then go home. And that's worth it. But otherwise, it's really not so much worth it.
I can say one thing. On Friday, I saw probably the best Avatar cosplayers I've ever seen. It was one of those groups of people where obviously they got all their friends who kind of already look like characters. We have a friend who looks exactly like a character from Bleach. So if she cosplays as that character, it looks like this crazy amazing cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
But all of these kids looked exactly like the people in Avatar. And furthermore, they dressed up in Fire Nation, which is kind of like what they're wearing in the third season. And it was totally awesome. I talked to them briefly. I didn't give them a flyer because I didn't want to reach into my bag. But if you guys somehow find Geeknights, you guys were totally awesome. Especially whoever it was who was in that gigantic Appa costume.
I bet you if you hadn't suddenly become like an Avatar fanboy, you wouldn't even notice them.
Suddenly become. Pretty much as long as I've known about Avatar, I've known it was good. And now that I've actually watched it, I just confirmed that it was as good as I thought it was. In fact, a little better than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Anyway,
what?
what else?
I don't know what it is, why you hate Avatar so much.
I don't hate Avatar. It's just from what I've seen,
Which is nothing.
I've seen enough.
Yeah,
it
I'm
really
sure.
seems like a kid's show that a lot of people like, and I'm not going to pass a judgment on it until actually seeing it.
Well, what have you seen? You walked past
I
the
have
TV.
a low expectation for it, and I have a lot of things above it in the queue, and I have no reason to have a high expectation of it.
Uh-huh. Despite the fact, you see, because you poo-pooed all this book you're reading now, and everyone...
I didn't poo-poo it.
Yeah, no, you very
I didn't
clearly
poo-poo. I
poo-pooed
said
it.
I passed no judgment, and I said I'll get to it eventually, and eventually, I got to it. Yeah.
So can I? All right. Well, I guess you hated the comic convention at least.
I didn't hate it. You just
You
sorta-
hated all the panels and everything on stage.
No, it was.
Well, no, you already said you didn't like all the panels.
No, the panels. Well,
And everything on
the
that
panels.
stage.
The handful of panels that I wanted to go to, I couldn't go to. Most for having 200 panels, a very small percentage of them were non-advertisement panels. But no matter what, if you're interested in something geeky, there probably were, 5 panels there for you at least, because there were just such a quantity. You'll be interested in at least a handful of them. But when is that handful going to be scheduled? You'd have to figure out, you'd have to look at the schedule ahead of time and go at that, when they were going to be. And usually they probably wouldn't be grouped up. So if out of the 200 panels there were 5 you were interested in, good luck actually getting to more than one of them, because that would require going all 3 days, which is way too long to spend at this thing.
Well,
right?
I can at least say one thing that Scott probably won't argue with, like everything else, and those kids were totally in high school. But anyway, I'm glad we didn't bother getting a table at this con. And I think other than Otakon, where we're doing something kind of awesome with the front row crew, and Katsucon, where we pretty much set up like the entire front of the video game room, I don't think I'm gonna bother getting tables at conventions ever again. Like, it seems like it's just completely not worth it.
Unless we're selling swag, I see no reason to get a table at the convention.
But even then, I'm not really going to sit at the table. I'll hire someone to sell the swag.
No, yeah, but I'd be at the table maybe like for scheduled times, And that's actually something else. The Artist Alley was really big. And last year, the Artist Alley was small and too crowded, right? So it was much better. And last year, the Artist Alley at this convention was basically all like A-list people, like holy shit people, right? Which has also contributed to its crowdedness. This year, there were still some holy shit people in the Artist Alley, but not as many, right? And there were plenty of, B-list awesome people. They were still awesome. They just weren't, A-list famous people in there. But other than, like, the peak hours, I'd say, like, up to 40% of the Artist Alley, just no one was at their tables, and there were empty tables all over the place. Like, on Sunday, a lot of the tables were empty, So it was either too crowded, you can't really look at anything, or, it's not crowded now. Oh, there's, like, people missing. I can't see their shit. So, like, there was awesome stuff in the Artist Alley, but I barely even got to see anyone in the Artist Alley because they either weren't there when I was there, or it was too crowded and I couldn't get through, and it wasn't worth it.
But there was one absolutely awesome thing at the con. On Saturday night, T.M.Revolution had his concert, which went crazily well.
Except we weren't there.
Well, because we ended up having to skip Saturday. You had to miss anyway because of your family stuff.
Yeah, they put the convention on Passover, which is, I'm an atheist Jew, so it's not the biggest deal, right? I wasn't like, oh no, I'm going to Jew hell, which doesn't exist. But, my family was eating dinner, and it's like, free dinner with family? Convention that I'm spending a whole bunch of time at for free anyway. TMR, who I've already seen. Okay, I'll go get the free awesome food.
But anyway, the main event for us, like because we weren't even going to go to the New York Comic Con, but we were kind of roped into it. But the reason for all that was that on Sunday, T.M.Revolution, Takanori Nishikawa himself, came to the Kinokuniya because we set up this thing because we talked about this way back, but we're friends with the people here who work for like TokyoFM, and they were like Brian.
I think
Nishi.
the company's GIO, right?
Yeah, but they work like they do stuff for TokyoFM, the radio station in Tokyo.
Yep.
And Brian Nishi is a host of this awesome baseball show. If I was a baseball fan and I understood Japanese, this would be the show to listen to.
Yeah.
Because seriously, hearing this energy, especially because the Japanese, baseball is big to them.
Yeah, pretty big. They don't have, some of the other sports. They don't have ice hockey, really.
Like baseball in Japan is the way hockey is.
They don't have basketball.
Baseball in Japan is
they don't
as
have football.
big as hockey is to me personally.
Yeah, pretty much.
But so this was set up to where basically TMR came to the Kinokuniya for this big event. And by the way, the upstairs was completely filled to capacity with fans. It was kind of...
And shelves.
It was kind of crazy.
Smart fans would have sat in the Zaya.
Well, the thing is, it was tough to get in there because people had already had this idea and parked themselves in the Zaya well before this event.
Yeah, I'm not sure, though, how many people in the Zaya were parked for the event and how many just happened to be in there.
Well, I
tough to tell.
think next time what the Kinokuniya should probably do is try to work out a deal where the Zaya closes that part and doesn't sell, but instead they like sell snacks to people throughout the whole store for that one time or something.
Yeah, they need to make a deal with them because then you could actually put the like the people in the Zaya or something like that, or have seating in there or something.
But basically, he came and there was an interview where he was the guest and he was interviewed by Brian Nishi and also interviewed by us. We were brought up as like the big anime fans from America with the award-winning amazing anime podcast. Yeah. And we were brought up there and we got to ask him 3 questions. And I got to say a couple of things. One, this guy, Takanori Nishikawa, the per pound energy in this man is like off the charts.
Well, either, right? First of all, they had a booth at the Comic-Con for TMR, right? And they had some of his clothes there, like on mannequins.
Now, we'd seen him in concert.
But we were far away.
And also, he looked really tall and really big because, when you're on stage and you're kind of like out in front of everyone else, like in front of the backup people and there's the lights, you look larger than life.
Especially when someone is so far away.
But even up close, you look like this kind of epic figure.
Yep. In reality, TMR is a very, very, very small man. He is incredibly small.
But he is...
Holy shit, is he small.
He is very pretty. And in fact, multiple of the questions that were asked to him by people in the audience were related to, so how do you get your hair to look that way? And how do you look so good? And stuff like that. Of course, I think I like this guy a lot because unlike the majority of interviews with Japanese stars I've heard, he gave some pretty funny answers.
Yeah, either, right? He's like just really good, like a really great actor, and he knew like awesome answers to say. Like, it's always tough to tell when a famous person is genuine. You always have to have some skepticism, like, are they just really good at pretending they love all their fans, or do they actually love all their fans and are awesome? And, it doesn't really matter because you never know the person in real life, so it doesn't matter if they're genuine or not. What matters is they're awesome and providing the entertainment that you're looking for because they're an entertainer.
Thing is, though, I think he's genuine because actually one of the questions we asked, because it turns out that a long time ago, he used to do a radio show. It was like Takadori Nishikawa's All Night Nippon.
All Night Nippon.
It was funny because we printed it out, because and
it was question mark RU Night Nippon, and we're like,
well, it was Naito too. So I was like,
right.
What is this? And it was in Romanji. So I was like, all right, what is this? Why did Google cut off this character? What was it?
Is it like Iru Naitu Nippon?
Because we're dumb, and then we show it to people who speak Japanese. They're like, no. Aru Naito, all night. And we're like,
Aru Naito Nippon.
But apparently, like, he did this radio show and he loved doing it. And he only stopped because he kind of got so famous that he had no time to keep doing it. And I think it's if nothing else, the energy that guy has is definitely genuine.
Yeah, definitely.
Plus,
and he seems to enjoy what he's doing.
Yeah,
if nothing else.
The coolest thing is we asked him, like, because he actually voice acted in Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny.
Yep.
Like, he played minor, like, Gundam pilots. And he answered the question a roundabout way where he basically said, if you'd gone to me when I was a kid and told me that I would have effectively had my very own Gundam, I probably would have peed myself. And then he proceeds to make a motion of...
He does like a hand gesture showing like, he's like, yeah, I'd pee all over the place.
Like the pee would have just gone everywhere.
Yeah. So... Yeah, he definitely is a funny guy. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Whether you like his music or not, because, not everyone likes that kind of music. Whether you like Gundam or not, it doesn't matter either. He's a pretty awesome person, and he wasn't...
Not just Gundam. He's done music for other shows.
Oh, he's done music for plenty of things.
And actually, while TMR is like this very specific kind of music, he's also involved in this other project called the Abington Boys School, which, if that... name sounds familiar, think Radiohead.
Yeah, basically he started another band, right? And he called it Abington Boys School, which is the school that Radiohead, started in. So it's like an all-boys school in, England, Albion somewhere. So he must be...
what the hell is England?
Yeah, I know. He must be a Radiohead fan of some sort, right? That would be like if I made a band and I called it Strawberry Fields.
I really wanted to ask him about it, but... because of time limitations, we only were able to ask him like 3 questions.
Yeah, basically we submitted a bunch of questions, and we decided, okay, well, it doesn't matter what questions we submit, if they have a high probability of actually making the cut or a low probability, it doesn't matter, that way we can stick to our principle of ask hard questions, but then someone else decides which questions we're actually going to be able to ask.
What hard question can you ask him? It's like, all right, so you're a musician.
I would go online and I'd research and find like his harshest critic and then like, say, what do you think of, this critic saying such and such about you?
The worst thing
do you
I can
think
say...
I could have asked, hey, your music is only popular because you attach it to popular anime. Do you think that your music would be popular if you didn't attach it to any anime?
Yeah, except the answer based on Japan is already yes very much.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just,
Plus,
you could ask that kind of question.
One thing I find very interesting about TMR is that it's popular in America. It seems like half of the people who know about TMR in America know about him because of Gundam Seed. But the other half of these people there's a lot of people, especially in New York City, who are fans of Japanese music, like particularly J-rock or J-pop or J-metal. And they're fans of him. They don't even know he was in Gundam. They don't care. They're just fans of his
they
music.
know he was in Gundam.
But they're not. Some of them I don't think did.
Maybe a few didn't, but even so.
You could tell the J-rockers in the audience as opposed to the anime fans.
You could, definitely.
It was like this 40-40 mix, and then the other 20% were actually... I don't know the deal, but it seemed like a bunch of people in Japan won this contest or something where they came with him to America to see the concert, and there were all these Japanese schoolgirls like lined up outside the glass, like watching and yelling, and it was pretty funny.
All right, how long have we gone? Do you want to?
We should wrap this up. The one last thing I got to say, and Scott will probably think this is lame, but I can't believe that. I mean, I shook hands with TMR. I was up there on stage with him. It was pretty cool, and he even said. And I give it like a 75% chance that he was serious, that he will listen to or at least check out what Geeknights is.
Yeah.
But beyond that, he high-fived us again on his way out. And then I got to kind of give the second-hand high-five to all the people behind me. And I think that was pretty cool.
Are you like... It's just a person.
Unlike you, who is jaded about everything in the world and everything is mad.
Unlike you, who is not a teenage 13-year-old girl who thinks that touching someone is like somehow magical, and then touching someone who touched someone is like magic rubbing off. Ooh.
It pretty much is.
No, not really.
That was concentrated magic that came off of his hand. And
as cool a guy as he is, right, and as fun as he was, and as awesome as the event was, he's just a dude, a really small dude, but a cool small dude. And he's not magical, and high-fiving him is not special
yes,
in any way.
Yes, it is, and you suck.
No, it's
You're
not.
You're just mad about everything.
No,
but anyway,
I'm a not 13-year-old girl.
Whatever, I think it was awesome. But I can at least tell you all this. It won't be terribly useful. I'm going to see if we can get permission to get the audio of this thing. But if nothing else, if you really want to hear us asking T.M.Revolution some questions, it will be aired on TokyoFM in the Tokyo, metropolitan area at midnight Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday.
That's terrific.
So if maybe our friend Ultimo Spalpine will record it.
Someone driving late at night, from down Mount Akina will turn on the radio.
And they'll hear Geeknights.
And
the second time we have been on the radio in Japan.
All right. Do you want me to do the thing, or do you want to go on to things of the day?
Anyway, despite the fact that Scott doesn't understand the magic, things of the day.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're not excited about things.
We better call Randy then. If it's the magic rubbed off on you, we can go get $1 million. Then you can go fly to Japan and high-five TMR again.
Is in the bag.
All
but
right.
Anyway, so this has been going around the internet. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, but there's this video of a guy who was stuck in an elevator for 41 hours.
Wow, that really sucks. And it's basically the guy's going nuts. And I would also go nuts.
I particularly like how he cracked open the door and peed down the shaft, because that's pretty much the only thing you can do.
Pretty much. I'm surprised he didn't poop. Did he not eat? I wonder what was up with that.
I can go a couple days without pooping if I have to.
Yeah, but I mean, if I had to poop, it would, it could cause some problems.
Well, if I had to poop, I would have pooped
Also,
down the
dehydration
shaft.
starts to become a serious problem. He probably would have been better off drinking his pee.
No, 41 hours is not so long that you're going to get that dehydrated.
Yeah, but how long? He didn't know it was only going to be 41 hours.
No, he did, because he got stuck. Here's the thing. I don't want to dwell on this. We've already gone on long.
Oh, yeah, we got to keep it
this
quick.
This video was everywhere. And a lot of people were saying it was fake, or it was staged, or it was some sort of that's cool, but you couldn't be stuck there for 41 hours. If you did a little bit of research, this happened once, in 1990 something. This is old. But two, what happened was he was working late on Friday, went for a smoke break, came back up and got stuck. No one came back to the building until Monday.
Well, number one, deserves it, smoker.
Yeah.
Number two, where was his cell phone?
He left it upstairs because he just went down for a smoke.
See, I keep my cell phone on me at all times.
See, I often don't.
No, that's the bad. You're gonna get stuck in an elevator.
Yeah.
Number three.
Actually, I have been stuck in an elevator before. I was stuck in an elevator for over an hour once.
Number three.
At IBM with one of my coworkers. We're in an elevator, right? And it's going down, and we're going.
I thought you wanted to hurry this up.
The elevator's going down, and it stops. And we look at each other. We're like, no fucking way.
So you push the emergency button.
No. And then it goes again.
Oh, okay.
And then we get off. And then I get back on the elevator with the cart to go back up by myself, and it stops. And I go, ha ha ha. And then it doesn't go.
And you push the emergency button.
And it didn't do anything.
See, that's the problem. Those buttons are supposed to do something.
No, and a lot of them just make a bell ring. But if no one's around to hear the bell, then you're fucked.
See, those buttons are supposed to, like, call the fire department.
Most of them don't.
So that's bullshit.
But most of them don't.
Well, we need to make some kind of law.
In fact, a lot of the older ones, they ring a bell outside the building that says, hey, someone's stuck in an elevator in this building.
That's a little better, but
no one knows what that bell is. If I'm walking in Manhattan and I hear a bell ringing, I don't go
I'm just going to walk past the building, yeah. But even so, it's like that button should call the, help.
Well, it does call help, but they didn't expect anyone to be in the building.
Really, what they could do nowadays is the elevator just have a cell phone in it. You push the button, it calls, 911.
Anyway, for all the people who were saying he should have sued the place, the building settled for an undisclosed amount that he accepted. So I'm sure he was paid. Anyway, this video is pretty cool. What do you got?
All right, so Will Eisner, right? We've yet to talk about Will Eisner, mostly because the first Will Eisner book that Rim must read is at my grandma's house.
Good game.
So as soon as I get it back from my grandma, there'll be plenty of Will Eisner action, it's kind of sad that there hasn't been Will Eisner action, seeing as he's the greatest comic creator to ever live, with only Tezuka coming close with a tie or a second place. It's hard to tell. But anyway, Will Eisner, when he joined the military in the World War II times, right, and he mostly did comics for the military. And afterwards, when he had his own comics company after leaving the military, he's talking, from the early 50s to the 60s and such, he was still, the military was one of his clients. And he made a magazine called Preventative Maintenance Monthly. And here on this blog are many images and scans of Preventative Maintenance Monthly. And it is quite awesome. And you can see the epic comic power that is Will Eisner and his amazingness. Even doing, a lame military comic telling you to change the oil in your Humvee or whatever and not let grease get on rubber because it'll ruin it. He still manages to make some of the greatest comics there ever were.
All right.
So
anyway, before we get on to the main bit, Scott announced this contest intermittently for a while, and then he kind of kept forgetting to mention it again.
Yeah, I have been lax. I think maybe that's why we get so few entries for contests and we're so unsuccessful with them, is because despite, saying we're going to do contests right, everyone else, fucks them up. We never do them right.
Well, you never do them right. I'm smart and just don't do them.
Yeah.
Plus, I think the other thing is that
we either don't do them or do them poorly.
I think it's more that we asked a lot. I mean, most of the entries we got patently didn't follow the rules, so screw them.
Yep. Well, I have basically we had a contest. The contest was for the 3 volumes of the Guen Saga manga, which is a side story to the actual Guen Saga, published by Vertical in English. It's the entire thing. It's only 3 volumes. We have all of them. And the contest was to write an essay saying why we should give them to you and, to not screw up that essay. And basically, no matter how good your reasons were, if you screwed up the essay, we didn't count it. And, I didn't get that many submissions, but there were a handful of valid ones. And I've been lazy, but I finally evaluated all of them. And the winner is Mr. Roboto, who is from Costa Rica, mostly because his essay was valid. And he lives in Costa Rica. Therefore, it's probably best that someone in Costa Rica gets this manga because they probably can't buy it easily. And he also has a U.S. address, which is very nice because I can send it with normal shipping and then he'll get it somehow. I don't know how that works, but maybe I should get a Japan address and then I could buy Japanese video games and such and they would be sent to me. I want to figure out how that works.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty interested now. But yeah, Mr. Roboto, you should email me your address and then I will send you mangas for free.
You should probably also follow up with him via email.
Yeah, probably. I could do that too if he doesn't listen to the show.
But anyway,
this particular episode.
On to actually reviewing some anime here on Geeknights Wednesdays, the quote-unquote award-winning anime podcast.
That doesn't talk about anime enough.
Yeah, part of that's because Scott doesn't watch any.
Well, I've been reading books.
I didn't say anything other than that you don't watch
video
anime.
Games.
Yeah, you don't watch so much anime, do you?
It's video game and book season.
Yeah, okay, so you don't watch so much anime.
Not lately.
Actually,
Actually, lately I've been watching more because it's starting a new anime season.
But anyway, Tonight we're going to talk about something pretty quickly because it's a fairly short, kind of one-off thing, and I highly recommend it, but not for the reasons you might expect.
Yeah.
We talk about Maris the Chojo.
Right, not shoujo, but chojo.
It's kind of like if shoujo means girl, chojo means supergirl. This was actually released originally by CPM as the Supergirl or the Supergal, and they were kind of sued because of Supergirl and were forced to re-release it under a different name.
Right, but anyway, the deal is Rumiko Takahashi of Ranma slash Urusei Yatsura slash etc. fame, right? She made a short story, a very short manga story about Maris the Chojo, right? And Emily said she read that manga and owns it, but
It's like 10 pages long. It's like this happy little, yay, let's go, the end.
right, we haven't read it though, but we know it exists.
Now,
And
she said, oh, that thing, that's like this 10-page funny comic. We should watch it. It'll be short. There's not much to it. Well,
is it an OAV or a TV movie?
it's no AV, I think.
All right, so it's basically a one-shot OAV, one episode. So it's sort of like a short movie. Was it like 40 minutes, something like that?
I don't even know. It was late, and I wasn't sure how long it was going to be.
It wasn't as long as a movie, but
I'll say this, much like a lot of other anime from that era of when I'm watching anime, it wasn't that long. It was, in fact, only 45 minutes.
all right.
But it felt interminable.
It felt pretty long.
To steal a term from Dave and Joe. Kind of like how you watch Vampire Hunter D, and it's not that long, but it feels like it's super long.
I think what it is a lot of the scenes sort of drag. It's like there'll be a scene, and there's not much plot. I mean, they only had 10 pages of manga to go on, right? But to fill up 45 minutes, like, they would get to outer space, and then there'd be like a big scene, like when they were in the desert, right? They were in the desert on some planet. And it was just like a really 10 minutes of walking in the desert. And I was like, come on.
Except it was actually only like a minute or two, but it felt like
It
10
felt like
minutes.
they were walking in the desert forever. And there's the beach scene, which is the scene
Awesome.
of which is awesome.
Pure
but
awesome.
It felt like it was 5 minutes long just watching crazy shit on the beach.
But first, this was actually directed by, of all people, Kazuyoshi Katayama, who, among other things, went on to direct The Big O.
Big O.
It's showtime.
Awesome.
And he was actually, I didn't realize this, he was the assistant director for Nazca Valley of the Wind
Alrighty.
and a bunch of other stuff. But
It's a pretty important anime person that not many people have heard of.
Maris the Chojo is about, it's about a girl who's from a planet that was blowed up. And everyone on that planet has 7 times the strength of a normal human.
I imagine it's probably one of those things where the planet had 7 times the gravity, so everyone is super strong there.
I don't know if it would even be addressed.
The thing is, she's super strong in outer space also, which, yeah. It was not one of those things where they explain it where, you know, a science fiction nerd would be satisfied.
But because she's super strong, she wears these restraints most of the time because otherwise she busts stuff up and gets in trouble.
Like, if she just walks around without restraints, like, her step will smash the floor, which is not too good in a spaceship. It could mean certain doom.
So, what problems does she face? Well, one, she's poor. And that's pretty much it.
That's
she's
pretty
poor,
much-
and she wants to not be poor anymore.
That's pretty much typical anime fare. I mean, in outer space, no money. Cowboy Bebop, anyone? I mean, how many times have we seen this
money,
plot?
No. Now, she has her kind of co-pilot and friend is this little kitsune who is hilarious.
He's pretty funny.
And the plot is basically she's poor.
I don't know why he hangs out with her, though.
He comes out, constantly complains, why do I hang out with you? But he doesn't go away.
No.
But the plot is that it starts out and there's this kind of action scene where she beats up a bunch of people. And I was worried about what kind of show this was because she beats up everyone but this one guy who's wearing like a power suit. And he's like, ha ha ha, ha, like, I'm awesome and I will defeat you. But then Scott's like, did he pee himself? No, it can't be. We're watching. It's like, no, that's probably just like some water or something.
I completely forgot about this.
And then it cuts to her, and she's like, wow, he's so afraid. He's so afraid despite all appearances. And we're like, was that actually intended to be pee to convey that? And not only is that indeed pee, not only did he pee all over himself, but the pee is there, like in inordinate amount. Like you see it so much in every, like, it's highlighted. It's there. The guy peed himself.
This is pretty much a wacky show. It's just a very simple sort of Dragon Half kind of. I would compare it to Dragon Half, only a little crazier.
If you want an analogous show, it is Project A-ko.
Project A-ko is also very analogous.
The deal is, eventually she gets a job to save some guy who was kidnapped. And the guy is super pretty, so she decides, and he's super rich.
Sounds like Dragon Half to me.
All right, I'll save him, and then he'll marry me, and I don't care what he's like, because I won't be poor anymore.
And plus, she's got a family who has the same problem she does, that they're super strong, but her dad's drunk, and her mom's stupid, I guess.
And she goes to save him, but it turns out that he's being protected by this evil guy who's his Char, and then this other girl who's basically Biko, and she is 3 times the strength of a normal human. But it turns out they were both wrestlers, and it just goes crazy from there. And what this really is a vehicle for 1 million cameos and side jokes.
The beach scene, it's never more evident than in the beach scene and in the cantina scene, basically.
The Darth Vader.
Mos Eisley scene. Basically,
Darth Vader's huffing paint.
All right, so first I'll discuss the beach scene. There's one part in which they taxi someone to the beach as a ploy to get money.
So saith Emily. This is like 1 page, and that's it. But instead, they drag it out into this almost music video montage of all these scenes of the beach, and it's actually really funny.
Yeah, it's just basically, they get to the beach, and then this camera, they show you all these just scenes happening on the beach while this music plays. And you see such things as other Rumiko Takahashi characters hanging out on the beach, under the water, etc.
All of them. Like, you see Ten and Lum and Ataru and all these people.
Right. You see a battleship under the sea shooting. You see...
Well, there's a strange undertone where it's obvious. Like, you watch this, and it's like, wow, this giant war is just starting.
You see an alien invasion of mechanical space alligators.
Like, the Dinobots are marching out of the ocean, and right next to them, everyone's just hanging out on the beach, totally ignoring them.
It's really weird, because this giant, it's like there's an alien invasion of old and new battleships in space and undersea, and, cyborgs and robots and aliens and God knows what. But all the people on the beach are hanging out. It's like if you took an anime about a horrible alien invasion and took an anime about hanging out on the beach being happy, and you just put the cells one on top of the other. And the two worlds didn't actually collide.
The best part is the guy who's scuba diving.
Oh, definitely.
Because there's this big blue thing, and spoilers, I guess, and he's swimming toward it, and he kind of pokes his head in the hole, he's looking around, and suddenly it clamps around him.
And it eats him.
Well, it's like, it clamps around him, and you wait, and I'm like, haha, and then it goes like, and now he's totally inside.
So he just got eaten by a creature on the bottom of the sea.
Now, that's funny in and of itself, but then a second later, like with perfect comedic timing, his bones pop out. And
it burps, and these bones pop out.
And it's just hilarious.
Not only is it funny that the bones pop out with comedic timing and a little burping noise, the way the bones are drawn is really funny. I like bones.
But
they're really cute.
There's a similarly long scene with the desert, but I guess what I would say about this show...
No, the desert. So at one point, they crash on the desert. And it's the girl and Maris and the fox walking around the desert.
By the way, while it kind of works, the kitsune is a total jackass asshole.
Yes. So
in that one scene,
2 characters crash spaceship walking around the desert, and I'm like, Star Wars. I even said Star Wars out loud, right, while we were watching it. They arrive at sort of a shady ghost town. I'm like, Mos Eisley. I say it out loud.
And then we immediately see Darth Vader huffing paint.
There's Darth Vader huffing paint, and there's an R2-D2 in the background. And I'm like, I fucking called it. How more obvious could they be?
But if I was going to say anything about this show, it's not necessarily a great show in and of itself.
No, not really.
But what it is, and it really gave me the same vibe I got when I was in 4th grade, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I was seeing my first anime, and I would watch any anime I could get. And shows from that era, like shows like that, where there's these long, kind of dragged out musical number scenes, and there's this Goonie kind of humor that the style of Goonie humor in modern anime is a lot different from the style of Goonie humor from this older anime. And I don't know. This is the best show to a whole bunch of people at once.
I know it's the best show to hold to a bunch of people.
Well, it's in that genre.
It's a great show to show to a whole bunch of people.
I think it's up there with Elf Princess Rain.
It is definitely right up there with Elf Princess Rain.
It's
Dragon Half, Eiko,
Eiko.
all those sort of wacky, sort of semi one-shot adventure-y thingies to have a fun time with.
But these are wacky in the older school way, as opposed to like Excel Saga and all those kinds of things, which are wacky in this kind of completely different way. Not saying one is better or worse, but it's a different kind of wacky.
Yeah, it's the old school wacky, and I liked it, but I don't know if I'd watch it again. But
the real vibe I got, and Emily got the same vibe, and Scott even did to a degree, was watch this show if you're in the same frame of mind to watch like Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yeah, definitely the late night, quiet, kind of weird action enhances it in a different way than the large crowd does.
Yes, but I think both are good. I mean, if you run an anime club, show this. It'll go over really well. You got people yelling and screaming and oh my god.
If they can get over
God.
the fact that it looks old, which I never actually heard any, I hear old school anime fans complain, kids don't look at stuff because it looks old, But I've never actually heard anyone say, I'm not watching this because it looks old.
The only people I've ever heard say something like that were people who aren't anime fans, they're Naruto only fans, or they're Bleach only fans. They're people who are like just getting into anime, they've only seen like their Dragon Ball, and that's all they like.
Yep.
But anyone who watches anime, no, I've never heard
Dragon
someone
Ball
say
looks
that.
old.
Yeah, Dragon Ball does look old now.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how old it looked till I saw some the other day.
It's also really poorly drawn. The Maris the Chojo is better looking than Dragon Ball.
Maris the Chojo, if you have an anime club, show it and talk it up as this old school event, and people will yell and scream, and they'll be kind of bored during the desert scene. They'll be like, what's going on? Where is this going? And
the desert scene, it actually starts to get serious for a little bit. And like a few times, it sort of tries to be serious, kind of,
but it does it in that old school, like Slayers, where it's like, we're going to be serious.
Just kidding. Yeah.
But all that desert scene is just set up if you have a crowd for when they see Darth Vader, even if it's not that funny in and of itself. If you've got a crowd of anime fans in a room having been set up with this desert scene and suddenly they see Darth Vader, they're going to go, ah!
Yeah, pretty much. All right. That was a little bit of a long show, but I guess it makes up for no show yesterday, right?
Yeah, and we'll probably do a show tomorrow. There's a tiny chance we might do a special or something quick because I'm actually going to Rochester for Toricon, which might be the last...
Aren't you going Friday?
Yeah, but I got to pack and get ready Thursday and sleep.
I'm going to have a new computer tomorrow.
Yeah, so basically
what I had to put together and
what I'm trying to warn all of you is that I might want to go to bed early and hang out, and much like when I got my new computer and suddenly there were a couple of non-Geeknights because, Rim's got to do something maybe. I think Scott's feeling the desire to build his computer.
Maybe we could do something like special. I'm thinking maybe.
I think we should do a special. The Thursday specials are always fun. People seem to enjoy them almost more so than a normal Thursday.
I'm kind of thinking, right, this might be spur of the moment. I don't know if we want to say it on the show, right? I don't know if I haven't discussed this with you beforehand, but maybe we could do something crazy like we Skype a listener and talk 15 minutes and that's it.
That might be interesting. Depends on the listener.
I know.
I kind of want to Skype
There's some listeners that I know are like sure bets.
I kind of want to Skype like Daryl Surratt.
Nah.
And be like, hey, Daryl, let's talk about something that isn't anime or video games.
Well, you could do like a 15-minute geek profiler, something like that. So I guess people are probably going to comment on that saying, pick me in the forums, right? Yeah.
I'm sure they will.
I'm sure they will. Well, maybe we'll do it, maybe not. We'll see.
But anyway, the New York Comic Con was okay. T.M.Revolution was the fucking bomb. And hopefully...
Quite explosive.
Hopefully...
A very small bomb with a very large explosion.
He's like a neutron bomb.
He's really small. Oh, my God.
But he's so energetic.
He's so small.
Like, normally, with someone who's famous, you expect at some point that grin to turn into the slightly forced grin. I mean, as like... game face as I am at conventions, because people see me at cons, I'm up there like, yeah, and then I get into the room and it's like my face goes from the smile to like the frown before I fall asleep and snore and like die. But every now and then my visage cracks. And
it's a visage.
And famous people, it cracks because they have even more pressure. But I didn't see a single crack in this guy. Maybe he might be a robot.
A very small robot.
He might be a robot.
He's a very small robot. Turn the show. The show's got to be over now.
It's over. It's done.
It's done.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.